post-war America, the United States post-war kind of becomes the center of the art world, and the abstract expressionists in New York are the first major school, and then pop art is the next major movement, and Andy Warhol is kind of the name for pop art, and this Marilyn diptych is actually screen printed, and on the left it's really colorful and garish and bright, and on the left you see it's black and white, and a lot of the images are fading. And as you guys now know, Marilyn Monroe committed suicide the same year that this was printed, and so the left side is associated with her in life as this sort of bright, over-the-top star, and then the right side is associated with her in death as, this sort of like fading image, like a ghost almost. So the image itself is from Marilyn Monroe's 1952 film Niagara. It's a publicity photo. And it wasn't particularly a famous scene or anything. I think it was just a photo taken to publicize the movie. But by taking it and repeating it multiple times, Andy Warhol's basically, elevating her to this icon status. And that's an icon in the fact of, in the sense of the way we talk about icons now. Someone's an icon, they're very recognizable, and it's sort of in a language that everybody understands. But when he chooses the title Marilyn Diptych, he's actually referencing, icons in the sense that we learned about them from, the early Christian era, where they're painting representations of Jesus that are married to be worshipped, So he's making a very obvious comment about how we approach celebrity and popular culture by referencing, this religious art in the title. And so, Andy Warhol is originally from Pennsylvania, but he came to New York and he gained all his fame in New York. And he's influenced by the abstract expressionists because he works in a very large scale format, and the kind of repetition where everything is all the same all over the canvas is kind of reminiscent of Jackson Pollock. How everything is kind of splattered evenly all over the canvas. It's kind of similar here when you think about it, even though here it's very organized and it's in rows, the Jackson Pollock effect where things are distributed evenly and there's no real place for the eye to settle. That's the influence from Pollock and the abstract expressionists. So Andy Warhol is really famous for coming up with this sort of mass-produced art format, and a lot of people really didn't like him because he would hire people to make his art. He would come up with an idea and he would make the silk screen, and then he would hire people to come and make many copies of it, which is funny because people said, oh, he's not a real artist, his art is he's just a hack, which is basically someone who comes up with an idea and then capitalizes off of it and doesn't have many new original ideas. But he was actually an accomplished illustrator before he became a famous artist, and he could draw really well. He just came up with these whole new processes that people didn't agree with. But you think about what America was becoming during the 1950s and 60s during the post-war period. It's basically the explosion of consumer capitalism. And so things are being mass-produced. And so he's basically using that kind of mode of production in his art, and he used this process called screen printing. And if you guys have never seen screen printing, I'm really sorry that we're not talking about this in class, because I have materials to screen print in my class and we would have done it learning about Andy Warhol. It's the way t-shirts are made, and you can make many, many copies of something. And so that's how he's able to make these, multiple copies exactly the same. They're not painted, they're screen printed. And so please do me a favor, you guys, and watch this video on the demo right here where it says cool demo. It's just, you'll see the way colors are layered on a screen print. Basically, the frame that you see that the ink is in, it has a screen like a window screen, but it's a much finer mesh. And then they create a stencil over the screen. And when you push the ink through the stencil, then it creates the image. And it's, like I said, it's how t-shirts are made and how a lot of artwork is made. And you can make a lot of really high quality images. This is obviously before the inkjet printer, so people weren't making things that way. But that's how Andy Warhol worked. And let's see, what else can I tell you about Andy Warhol? He's, you might not like his art, but he's just such a seminal figure. And his way of talking about consumerism and the image and sort of the way we recreate images in society it's so huge and important. Is really amazing, what he did for the time. So let's see. But like, how is it art? You could do that also. Like, how could you make, like, you could screen print it and you could make many copies of it. But the fact that he thought to incorporate her image and in this way, I guess the fact that he did it first, he thought of it. He thought about what Marilyn Monroe meant to everybody and what, the kind of psychological effect of having her face be repeated many, many times. It's important to remember that it's not about Andy Warhol's experiences. He's talking about America and popular culture and how we experience, superstardom. Because Marilyn Monroe was such a recognizable star and people worshipped her, So when she died, it was like, she was elevated to this like immortal status. And so he's kind of commenting on that with this through his art. I don't know. I guess there would be a lot of ways to do it, but this is the way he did it. And he kind of, it's almost like magnifying the icon status by repeating the image. So, yeah, I get it. It's a legit question.